Welcome everyone to First Wednesdays, where we normally have Master Coach Gretchen and Heido, but I'm going to take over as Gretchen is coming back from a vacation, which I suggest everybody do a few times a year. Today I'm going to talk about systems. So my name is Christy. I am Gretchen's right-hand gal, and I'm the systems gal in her thing. I also do project management and all of that. But today I want to focus on just coaches doing, we can talk about one-on-one offers as well as group coaching. So I'm going to just run down three key workflows that you can either have automated or not. And then along the way, whoever's on the call, you can ask questions and I'll be happy to answer. So I'm just going to kick it off with the very first thing I suggest coaches to have workflow wise, which is something to track their potentials and lead and outreach type of clients that are coming in. There's different ways to do this, but I'm going to give my quick and dirty tips because there is so many ways to be an entrepreneur that there's no really wrong way to do it. It's just find the way that works for you and your business. So with that, I always suggest having some sort of virtual business card. I know some people really love actual business cards. I'm a fan of virtual ones. And different ways to do it are either using Canva or using Linktree. People use Linktree as a virtual business card often, but there's a lot of other programs out there. Linktree can be, free. You can pay for it too, but a lot of times you can get with the free one and have all your links on there. So you have one simple link to give somebody. That's if you don't have a website yet. If you have a website, you can actually build that in your website. I would talk to whoever built your website or let me know if you have any questions after this and I will totally help you out with that. But also have an actual way to track your leads is very, very important. People have different minds when it comes to data. So I love using Google Sheets, Sheets and Excel and things like that for my data. But some people like more visual things. A more visual way you can go about it would be something like a Trello board. If you've never used Trello, it's a project management system that you could kind of use as a client relationship management software in a roundabout way. You can use Trello to track all of your leads. And you can also put in little reminders for yourself of making sure that they know what emails they're getting, what reminders that they're doing, or even you reaching out to someone who may be gone cold. And another thing that you should need to have in your lead part. Hi, Jill. We're talking about leads and potentials and how to track them. Another way is booking a call with them. It's very important. I know many people start off with the whole going back and forth with your Google Calendar. And even if you get really busy in your business, you may resort back to that. But if you have a way to streamline it, I suggest using a platform called either Acuity or Calendly. Those are the top two known ones, but there's plenty of out there that you just put in your schedule. It's kind of set it and forget it, and people can book calls with you. You can send a link that people can find a call time with you, so you don't have to go back and forth too much. If you do have either a life that's a little bit busy or you start getting really busy with clients that actually makes it hard for you to book calls with them with something like that, definitely a way to do this is think of this is more like an offline system type of way. It's more of a process of how many options are you going to give somebody? Are you going to give them 3 options that they're going to choose? So when you get asked, hey, can I book a call with you? And you can't use a scheduler. You can be like, okay, I already know that I give people 3 options. You can either go 3 options, 3 different days, or 3 times, morning, afternoon, night, or whatnot. But going through your calendar and having really good calendar management is really important when you're doing something like a non-automated way to schedule calls with you. So I'm going to pause there and then I'll talk about follow-ups. But I'm going to pause there and I want to take any questions from anybody on the call regarding anything I just talked about, a virtual business card, tracking your leads, or booking connection calls automatically or manually. Anyone have questions? I talk fast, so yeah, Sherry.
Yeah. So Christy, on the Canva, because I do have a Canva account, and creating a card, like a business card, is it just so you save it as a JPEG or and then just text it to them? Is that kind of the idea?
Well, the way I would use it on Canva is to make it a little more clickable, which on Canva you can actually make websites actually on there. So instead of creating an image, you're going to go to create or look for a mobile website and use that option, because the link that it gives you to share is clickable at that point. So it will scroll, it will kind of do mobile friendly. It's not a robust website, but it's a great way to go around it. So you can actually take their website feature and get a template for like a business card or something if you'd like, or try to copy something like Linktree and make it there, and you have it already. If you already pay for Canva Pro, then you can put as many links as you want. It's a live updating, so you don't need to resend it if you update it later. It live updates. I actually use it as one of my freebies for my like 9 systems that I like using. And then it's clickable. You have the link. If you don't like the really long link, just throw it into like Bitly and create a short link, and then you have a short link for that.
Okay.
Yep, I love their website feature. It's. I have a full blown website. I have funnels and everything. But sometimes it's easier just to go on Canva and do something quickly and then send it to someone.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. And do you know if there's like a YouTube video, like on, like, how, I'm sure I could probably Google something
Yeah,
to
if you
create.
want to. If not, I can send you one. But if you want to
Okay.
Google it, I would a YouTube video. And here's a tip. I'm going to give a tip about tutorials right now. YouTube it. You could look for Canva website, and it'll show you how to create one. There's going to be my tips when you're looking up tutorials that have to do for tech is try to find something within the last 3 months, if not within the last 6 months, because tech moves fast and you can get something that's outdated and you get a little confused of like, wait, they said the button's here, but now it's over here. So that's my little, always make sure it's within the last quarter or so of the year.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone have questions before I move on? Nope. Okay. So follow-ups. Okay. Everybody does follow-ups differently. Everybody has a different energy with follow-ups. I'm the type of person that I will have a process to follow up, but I might not always use it. What I mean by that is that a lot of the times if I feel like someone, aka ghosts me, I just let them go. My energy is not attached to anybody. I try to have very detached things. If they come back to me, great. If I'm in a like launch mode and I'm really trying to sign up for people, my follow-up game will go up stronger then because I'm trying to fill seats. But if it's one of my normal things that is like, I have that offer open all year. If someone just doesn't respond to me, I just let them go. They come back to me, great. If they don't, that's fine too. What I do to have a follow-up plan is I have 2 emails. You can turn them into text messages. You can turn them into whatever you'd like, but I have 2 emails. So when my brain is kind of like frazzled for whatever reason, I could just grab that and do whatever I want with it. And it's basically saying, hey, I haven't heard back from you. Or I always, especially in the first follow-up, I always give them something that will help them from what we talked about. So if I talked with someone, I'm a productivity coach. If I talk with somebody and they're having time management issues, I may send them like a quick TikTok about like a, time management tip, or I'll send them a resource or a podcast. I love sending little bits of help in my follow-up emails, especially if it's your own content. Not everybody has their own content yet, but especially if it's in your own content, because you're showing the potential client that you remember what they were struggling with and you're trying to help them bridge the gap to solving a problem, or at least making their journey towards solving the problem. That will get them at the top of their head. I know when people do that with me, when I am going to be their potential client, I love it because I'm like, oh, you remembered me, because most people just kind of have so many leads coming in and out and you just forget people. So that's why it's always good to have notes on people when you have a connection call, either from their intake form on a connection call or during the actual call itself. I like grabbing them from either or, but sometimes there's something in a call that's just a golden nugget that you can use for a follow-up. You can remind yourself how often you want to follow up. I normally give people a few days because the world is moving fast a lot of the time. So I don't tend to follow up with anybody the day after, but I know some coaches do. I tend to give 2 or 3 days. Just be like, hey, still here. Here's something that you might need there. And then I also have a quarterly follow-up. I have one client that does monthly, but I like doing quarterly follow-ups because that also helps with my quarterly planning. When I'm doing my quarterly planning, I sit down and I decide who I want to follow up with. Because it could be you have a connection call that you're like, that didn't quite work for me. You can follow up with them and say, I have a referral for you if you haven't found a coach yet. Or you can follow up with them if they're a good fit. And if they're not a good fit, just let them go. It's totally fine. As we say in coaching for coaches with the lighthouse, like we're a lighthouse for specific boats. Not every boat is meant to come to us, and that's completely okay. So that's all about like leads and potentials in like a quick and dirty like 10-minute chat here. I want to move on to enrollment. People when I'm talking to people, they tend to confuse onboarding and enrollment. And I actually see them as two different processes. Enrollment, you're not a client yet, but you're in the process of transitioning to become a client. And then onboarding is you're actually a client and you're sending them like all the kickoff calls and all that stuff. Enrollment is gathering the payment, gathering the signatures, all of that before they fully are a client in your system. That's why I separate them. Does anybody have any questions about enrollment before I start talking about my tips there? Okay. And then, so for anybody watching the replay, I do want to say a lot of this, you don't have to automate. You don't have to have a system for it. It's just whatever works for you in your stage of your business. Because this is such a generalized call, it's just going to encompass 3 very broad things together. So if you're not in a stage that you need to have a team or anything like that, just take what you need. It could be like the simple virtual business card, or it could be having a spreadsheet so you can track your leads, because that's also important. That's actually important at any stage of your business, to be honest, because at some point you're going to lose track of who you're talking to, and you might talk to someone you talked to 2 weeks ago and you totally forgot you did. So it's always a good idea to track that so the person knows that you're being intentional with their time too. So with enrollments, so now I'm going to, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about enrollment. This is payment processing. This is signatures and everything like that. For the payment processing, I personally, I use Dubsado for pretty much everything. But if you're using a system like Acuity or Calendly, that can take your payments if you want to. Otherwise, there's so many different ways to actually take payments. I'm a fan also, when I first started my business in like 2017, I used something like Wave Apps. It has bookkeeping and everything all together, and it just charges a transaction fee. And I'll talk about transaction fees in a moment. But you can use PayPal, you can use Stripe, you can use Zelle or Square or Wave Apps. There's so many different ways to use it. I would just find a payment processor that you like, stick with that for a bit and see how that feels, or stick with something like Zelle, bank transfers, ACH if you want to avoid processing fees. Now, regarding processing fees, I use a fee calculator, and I'll drop it in the chat for those who are on here, and I'll try to put it in the description of this video too, if it lets me. So it's the feecalculator.com. I use that whenever I'm creating a offer. And then I go there and I check and I double check to make sure that I'm going to get the amount of money that I want. You can either figure out with Stripe or with PayPal. So if you want $2,500, you may have to charge maybe $2,600 or whatever that makes sense to cover the fees. Keep in mind too that not every state, at least in the United States, allows you to pass on fees, but that's why I always suggest just raise your prices if that's a problem. If you're not hitting your income goals, it might be your pricing that is kind of throwing you off. But honestly, I don't mind fees because it just, it makes it automatic, and I don't like dealing with like back and forth money situations. So I prefer Stripe personally. PayPal, if you're on this call and you've never used PayPal before, just know that the first 1 to 3 transactions on a new PayPal account can be held for a few weeks, and that could be very annoying. So that's why I prefer like Stripe or using Zelle or any other app like that. For contracts, for everything, there's so many different ways to go about this. Again, I use Dubsado, but I do love DocHub, and Gretchen actually uses HelloSign. I do like HelloSign as well. And there's a whole bunch of different ones that will give you different, like how many signatures you need per month or whatever. So if you're a super new coach on this call, I would say go with something like DocHub, because you can send 3 a month for free. And once you have your first 3 clients, you should have enough money to pay for an actual one if you'd like. Or maybe you only sign 3 contracts a month because you're not signing that many people, but your prices are high. So you're only selling like VIP clients that are going to work with you for like 3 or 4 months. So you may not need something that you're going to need to send out 10 contracts a month. But if you send a lot of contracts out a month, I would suggest you going a little higher. And as for contracts, if you're an ICF coach, if you don't have a contract and you're an ICF coach, I would Google ICF sample contract, because they actually give us a contract with verbiage that they I don't know if they would say that they suggest because of the legality, but they do offer it so you can use it if you want to use it for yours. I think my contract at this point is kind of amalgamation of like 5 different contracts, like 2 sample ones that I've gotten in programs I'm in, plus like um, 1 or 2 paid contracts that I purchased. What was the first one I said? Oh, Doc Hub. Doc Hub was the first one. I like that one because you can have templates in there as well, so you don't need to change too many things if you're, using the same type of thing. You can actually have a box in there of like the actual offer, and then the rest of it can be your normal, cancellation policies, reschedule policies, all of that. So it kind of saves your time. But if you're going somewhere more automated, HoneyBook, Dubsado, Paperbell, they all have like automated contracts that you can have in there, and it'll be like, all connected to your invoicing and your payment processor and all of that. But as I said, I like DocHub. I used that for a while before I ended up using everything in Dubsado. Any other questions about the enrollment phase?
Christy, are you the other one that you're saying? I was just trying to catch the name. Are you saying Dipsado?
Dubsado. Dubsado is so a quick thing about Dubsado. Their son, I think when they were like 3 or 4 years old, their son actually named the company. So it's not a word, but they made it a word.
The best kind of branding, right?
Yeah. Actually, my company is the same thing. It's Good Things Indeed. When I first started, I was also selling jewelry, and I asked one of my I think it was my dad's coworker's daughter. She wanted a necklace or a bracelet. I can't remember. She wanted it. I was like, okay, if you name my business, I'll give it to you for free. So she said Good Things Indeed. I was like, okay, let's take it. It's been Good Things Indeed for like 5 years. But yeah, Dubsado is an all-in-one CRM. It does, and they have 2 tiers. So they have a tier that doesn't have like the scheduler or the automations, but they have a tier that has everything. And the lower tier does have like contracts and payment processor and things like that. The full tier, which is the one that they've had since they started, has payment processor, proposals, invoices, questionnaires, everything is in Dubsado. And that's the same thing for HoneyBook, but HoneyBook's workflows are a little bit different. Trying to think what else with Dubsado. Yeah, you can book there. I'm trying to think everything I do in Dubsado too. Also set up Dubsado, so it just depends on what you need in Dubsado. But you can also, what I like actually using it for a lot lately is booking my VIP sessions, because I also have it as a block out my whole day type of situation, which also helps me because then I'm not going to focus on anything else except my VIP client. VIP is like my favorite thing to do right now. So let's go to onboarding. It's so funny. Whenever I talk to coaches and we're doing an intensive and we're trying to figure out their processes, onboarding is where they're like, I think I have it, but I also get so excited with people paying and signing that I completely blank out and I don't know what to do next. It's really exciting when someone actually, pays you, signs and everything. It's always exciting no matter where you are in your business. It's always like fun to be like, oh, someone paid me. The first thing I would do is create yourself either a welcoming kit, even though that's a little bit more involved and not everybody needs that, or at least a welcome email. And a welcome email would have everything from like any access that you need, if you're going to also give them course access to something, reiteration of any of your policies that you want them to know, because once you get more into your business, you realize there's some policies that you need to drill into someone's head. Because it's like they didn't read it, but I'm going to say it again just in case. How to book their calls if you have a specific process. If you don't have, for Gretchen, like for her roundtable program, we have a specific way we book those calls. We make sure that they're more or less bi-weekly and everything like that. So that is normally on there as well. Any new client questionnaires, if you want an intake form, if you want to know their Enneagram, like whatever you want, all in that welcome email with plenty of instructions and even due dates, if that helps you and your person. It helps my people because it's all time management and productivity. But also you can not do that and just have them send you an email of everything that they want to work on during your program. I had one coach who did that. She's like, I don't want to send a whole package. I just want to read because she likes reading. I don't. She just wants to read everything that's in their mind and do that. Gretchen also suggests that more for a prospect, but she did it for her clients once they're already onboarded. You can also have, a place to manage them. Do you use Google Docs, Evernote, Notion? I'm throwing out all these apps. There's so many different ones. I like Google Drive for everything, really. It's all together. It's super helpful. You can use other CRMs to store stuff in there, but if you want to have somewhere else, I always suggest it. I don't like putting all of my eggs in one basket in case one app goes down. I have it somewhere else, or else you're going to run into a problem. So I always like figuring out too, are you going to back up things then? Are you going to have your virtual assistant do anything at this point? That's if you have one. And here too, you can include, I'm looking at my notes because sometimes I forget what other people do besides me. Any reminders of payment plans. So if they're on a payment plan, you can remind them in that welcome email. So making sure that they get all they need. And then on your back end, maybe you want to tag them in your project management or somewhere else of like what kind of client they are. You want a reminder for yourself so you can check in with them after they fill out their questionnaire. Whatever you need can be contained in that onboarding right before their first initial call. Because then you have everything set to go. You are settled, they are settled, and then you guys can actually get on the call together and actually start the coaching instead of, oh, I need this and this and this, and going back and forth. That is a whole bunch of paperwork that can be taken care of either with automation or just a simple welcome email with instructions. And then you can go move forward and actually coach them. That's actually why I like doing business systems and everything, because you guys are coaches. Let's get you coaching. You don't need to be bogged down by all of this. In the beginning, it's a lot. When you're scaling, it's a lot. There's always pain points throughout your business. So you're like, oh, now I need this. Now I need this. You can always figure out along the way, like right now, I'm going to do everything manual because my business is at that point that it's okay to be manual. Maybe when I hit 100K, I want things to be automated. So you want to hire somebody to help you automate, or you want to hire a team members, because whenever you automate or find processes that are replicable, hire team members, your income will grow with that because you have more capacity to coach rather than to do all this admin stuff. So basically you can go from 5 hours a week doing admin, cutting that down to 4 hours a week, and you have 4 more hours to coach. You can coach 4 more clients, potentially 8 more clients, depending on who you're coaching. Any questions? I always talk about this fast because I get like super excited about the system.
So, Christy, maybe just a clarification. So you had talked about the welcome kit. So, did I hear that the welcome kit is kind of a series of 2 key communications, one being the welcome email or communication and the second being the onboarding?
You can have it too. So you can have a welcome email that has a welcome kit in it. So it has some information separate and some of it just in the email so they can see it. Or you can just send the welcome kit. Or my favorite actually is just a welcome email and not have like another PDF for them to click on because it's just going to be in an email. Actually, because you actually know, we sent welcome emails for Stairway to Six, not Stairway to Six, for the roundtable. So that kind of email is like a welcome email. It's just nice and clean and you don't have to fuss. Some people like doing whole welcome kits in Canva with PDF that looks all great. Totally fine. If you have the bandwidth to do that, do it. It looks great. But if you don't and you want to just get from admin to coaching, I would just suggest a welcome email. Anything else at this point? Nope. Actually, perfectly. We're at the 30 mark. So this was supposed to be just systems, but I wanted to kind of overview it so I can also talk about productivity for coaches. We talked about this, I believe, either in the last Wednesday or whatnot, where sometimes you get to a point, like I said, either you're new or you're scaling. Those are the 2 parts that this is going to happen, where you realize either your calendar management is off, your time management is off, or maybe even you're having your kiddos come home from school or going to school. So your entire life just kind of got switched around. And finding a time that works for you can be seasonal, and that's okay. There are some coaches that love a straight 9 to 5 every day. That's fine too. But if you have seasonal life, you should try to have a seasonal coaching as well. And what I mean by that is review. I'm a big fan. I think I've already said it today. I'm a big fan of quarterly planning. You plan your quarters as you go because it's a little less daunting than trying to plan your entire year. You can sit down. What I like doing is I take a weekend. I work on the weekend, so it makes sense for me. But you can take like a Thursday and Friday or whatnot, block it out of your calendar about a week or two before a new quarter of the year. It's a fiscal quarter. So like February, January, February, March, that's quarter one. So I would have that planning meeting in December and I'll plan out my next 3 months. What are my promotions? What offers am I focusing on? What I want to do team wise. Do I want to hire a new team member? Do I need this program? Like whatnot. So you can see it all. And then you can also figure out your calendar management and make sure that's on point. You may have some clients that overlap into quarters, and that's totally fine, but you can see where you can start transitioning people out or just start moving people around if you're okay with that. And then you can actually have a more grasp on your time rather than you chasing your time and feeling exhausted at the end of the day. Because if we're exhausted and we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to be our professional selves in our coaching. So becoming your professional self does actually very much rely on what you do with your personal self as well. Like, do you take care of yourself? Is everybody talks about self-care lately, but nobody really talks about like what some self-care needs to happen. And sometimes self-care is closing your laptop. If you have no more clients that day, why are you still on there writing a sales page? You can close it, start again tomorrow. It's okay. So I want to give you all that permission that it's totally okay to do that because your sales page is probably going to come out wrong anyway if you're tired and you're trying to write it. Can you hire somebody to do that? Can you ask somebody for help? Do you have a business buddy or a coach buddy who can be like, hey, can you at least proofread this for me? Because I'm at the edge of my day. I probably miswrote some things that not even spell check can catch because it's not that great sometimes. Sometimes we need a human to actually read it. So I like planning quarterly for that reason. So I can see chunks of time versus an entire year. I do annual planning as well, but quarterly planning makes it a lot easier. Then you can also have monthly planning and weekly planning. I'm also very much a weekly person. And that brings me to what I adapted this from another book that has nothing to do with coaching. It's what I call like closing duties for us. So at the end of your workday, 15 minutes or so, just make sure that you run through, did you talk to everybody you needed to talk to? Did you do that follow-up that you needed to do? Did you send, payment to a contractor, whatever it is, so you can close out your day and actually transition into your work, into your life, transition out of your work and into your life. And then from there, also having a weekly version of that. That's a little bit longer, about 30 minutes to close out your week. As you notice, a lot of this is transitionary. It's making you create tools in your toolbox to help you transition from your work to your life. And then also on the other end, from your life to your work. So you have a clear cut of knowing what's going on and you know when you need to take breaks, when you need to call in for help, call in for reinforcements, call in your coach if you're having a mindset roller coaster, which happens. And that also helps with planning your offers. So if you know that you're going to do a launch, and a launch is like it's an open and closed type of situation, you're going to fill like a group program or even a one-on-one program. Do you have a coach for that situation? Because if you don't have a coach for your launch period, you're going to have a lot of mindset hurdles that you're going to need someone to help you with. So either a buddy coach or like a peer coach or a coach that you pay is very helpful. So when you're quarterly planning, you can say like, okay, I know I want to launch one of my programs is intuitive productivity. I want to launch it. So I should start working with a mindset coach around this time. And then I start looking for a mindset coach or I re-engage somebody I've used before. You can see all the different things that are coming down the road. For day-to-day productivity, I know some coaches also struggle with that because sometimes you're either coaching all day and you did nothing else and then you feel like you need to answer a bazillion emails, or you're just answering a bazillion emails and not coaching at all. I like doing a model calendar system, and I think I brought this up in Sarah to 6. I'm going to bring this up for the roundtable as well. I have 2 people on this call that are/in both programs. where you kind of create your ideal week of what you want it to look like, even where you want clients to be booked. Because what you actually do, when you actually do that, you can actually kind of control your day a lot better. Now, I'm not going to say, I'm not a parent, so I can't say you can control your children with that. That's a whole nother topic. But when you're actually trying to control your business activities, you can say like, this time to this time, I'm doing professional development. So that means either I'm coaching, I'm reading a book, I'm doing something. On Fridays, I always block out an hour to do my bookkeeping, whether I need it or not, because sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And if I'm not doing bookkeeping, it's some sort of my finances. Am I paying my credit cards? Am I doing this? Blah, 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 all that. Or budgeting. I love budgeting though. And you just make a model calendar of what you want to do every week. I have some clients that I make it for. We do 1 week, another week, just because it's cycles. We do that. And it makes sense when you're literally sitting there, maybe you're just sitting there and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? You can look at your model calendar. I can tell you what you're supposed to be doing. So if it's supposed to be like, maybe, I don't know, say right now I'm supposed to be having a client, but I don't have a client, then you should be prospecting, looking for clients, outreaching, doing all that. So if you want clients at 3 p.m. on Fridays, you don't have clients then yet, use that full hour to look for a client, reach out to clients, book a call with someone, anything like that. That will just give you some guidance week to week when you're not sure either what to do. Maybe your motivation's kind of all over the place and your focus is all over the place, or you're in a weird in-between season of like, I just had like 12 clients like fully booked and now I have nobody. You should probably also have time per week that you're always prospecting so you don't have that gap unless you intentionally wanted a break from clients, which is also something I would suggest. Always put in your vacations in your calendar before you have them. Where is that from? I think it's like pay yourself first. Like, is that profit first? I think it's profit first. Pay yourself first. So if you're doing annual planning, go through your whole year and carve out the dates you want to go on vacation so nobody books calls with you. And if you happen to not go on vacation, have a staycation. I don't really care what you do, but like that time is your time. So if you block it out first, then nobody can touch it. So that can be your whole year. It can be your whole week, your whole month, whatever. Block out any dates you want people to book if you're using any automations. If you're not using any automations, it's a reminder to you not to book somebody because you said you were going to have intentional time off. And make sure that you actually take that time off. There's so many coaches that I've worked with that burn out because they actually don't take any vacation. They're like, well, I have time off on the weekends. Like, do you though? Because a lot of the times, half of our weekend, we're still in our work, and half of the weekend we're about to go back into our work. You need to have actual time off, not only for you, but for your relationships with your family and your friends and everybody else around you. It just will make you a better coach because you're not burned out. I have actually worked with a coach that's burned out, and I can tell that she was burned out. And I told her, I'm like, I don't know if we should be working right now. We put it on hold for a few months because she was very burned out, and I can tell she was all over the place. She wasn't present during our sessions. It looked like, I think she was texting, which, by the way, if you're seeing this, we've talked about this and we're fine. But I just felt so bad because I'm like, and you're not supposed to be feeling bad for your coach, right? You're supposed to feel like you're the one that being paid attention to. That's why you're paying them. And if you feel bad that your coach is scattered, that actually will start negating that relationship. And if you ever wanted to say like rebook them for another 6 months, 3 months, they might not want to because they had a poor experience with you. So anything you do for yourself is also a reflection of your business and how you show up in your business. And it's just very important to make sure that you carve out the time, even for items that are not fully connected to money, because everything you do is a money seed, even if it doesn't seem like it. Everything you do is a money seed. And just make sure that you're following it. And then every quarter or so you review it. You're like, well, I really didn't need 5 hours a week of professional development. Maybe I can go down to 2, whatever. You can always review it every quarter. How did the last quarter go? Can my next quarter go better? And then go from there. And like I said, if you're in a busy time or a launch, maybe bring it down to like every month you do that so you can make sure that you're not letting things go by too far. I just talked a lot. Does anyone have any thoughts? You don't even have to ask questions. You can just have thoughts.
I really like the planning, Christy. I do that a lot, like monthly and even weekly. I have a 30-day commit planner that I like to write in. But I like how you talked about quarterly. I really don't do a quarterly plan, but I think that that's something I want to really adopt.
Yeah. Quarterly planning can really help you level up, because in the beginning, I think all I did was like monthly planning. Actually, I probably just did weekly planning, and I started going out more and more. And then I jumped straight to year. And I'm like, I'm missing something here. So I went back down to quarterly. I'm like, that's what I was missing. That was my sweet spot. My quarterly is actually what drives my entire year and how it makes everything fit together, or how I can pivot. Because sometimes you need to pivot. Or sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I just ran that group program for the last quarter. I hated it. Don't do that next quarter. Do something else. Not every offer you have is going to be something that makes your heart sing by the end of it, and that's okay. It could either be like how you ran it, or maybe you're like, oh, I should have done like one-on-one first. Maybe I can do that, or just change the structure of it. Or it could also be like, I blew a lot of money on just like paying things, like buying things in my business that I didn't need. You can review your finances. I always do basically a life wheel for my business during my quarterly planning of like what's going on specific to my business and how can I improve. And then I pick 3 top ones that I want to bring up the scale. So if something fell down to a 2 or 3, I'm like, okay, I want that to a 5. Basically self-coach myself and make my goal planning based off of my little life wheel for my business.
Great, thank you.
I also appreciated that idea of thinking about quarterly planning in a seasonal way, because I noticed just even in terms of energy, people's availability. I mean, we do have kind of a seasonal culture. So, summer being when a lot of people take off time, want more time with their families, fall being kind of a launch, winter being when people don't like to do things as much toward the end of the day, or even evening sessions, which they're willing to do when it's lighter out. So I don't know, just even kind of in terms of flow, I like thinking about it in the seasonal way.
Oh, I love seasonal planning in so many different reasons. And you can also think about like business seasonal as well. Like people may not be actually signing up to do things near the end of December, but they'll sign up in the end of December for a tax break, but won't start until January. So it's okay to have a launch then, but don't start until January. And you can see that all over the place. So like people just want to buy things at the end of the year. So, tax break or whatever, especially if you're doing like business coaching or anything like that. And then seasonally, like you mentioned, sometimes it can be, for me, I'm a night owl. So for whatever reason, well, you know the reason, near the end of the winter, it's actually easier for me to book some of my other night owl clients because they like it. They're more awake now because we're night people. But the ones in the summer don't want to do as much, and they're a little like thrown off maybe because of the heat or whatever. And that also happens. Or like you said, they go on vacations. I always make sure that I'm keeping an eye on all of the holidays that would affect anybody I work with. Not just federal holidays, but even maybe some other religions that I tend to work with, making sure that I'm like not asking them to do things then, and also not asking myself to do things then, just to make sure that nobody's like have to reschedule everything all over again, because that would be very, very annoying for everybody involved. But with that thing, actually, let's talk about rescheduling. We get sick because everybody gets sick. Do you have a plan of what would happen if you either got COVID or the flu or whatnot? Like, what is your plan there? Do you have a virtual assistant who can take care of all the scheduling? Do you have that in your contract saying that I will send you an email and then reschedule once I feel better? Like, what contingency planning do you have? I noticed at the height, maybe not the height, maybe like more towards the middle when COVID first started, a lot of businesses didn't have that anywhere. So if they got sick, they're just like, I don't know what to do. Or they worked and they're probably really sick and they shouldn't have been working. So keeping all that in mind is very helpful when you're planning everything. So it's like, even like, okay, we're going into the last quarter of the year, but we're also going into winter and flu season. Do I have that making sense in my contract? Like, just in case I get sick, I'm immunocompromised, so I will get sick faster than anybody around me. What am I going to do? And that could be either a process that I tell externally to my clients or just a process internally of like, okay, if it's maybe just I'm a little bit dizzy, I'll continue working because my brain's still working. My body just doesn't want to work with my brain. And then maybe I'll just work from my lounge chair that I have over here, which is totally fine. Or if I have a stomach ache, no, not working. Like having your own boundaries in your own business too is very helpful. So you're not questioning what you're doing when you're moving forward with either a client or a potential client. Communication is key all around. Now, you don't have to give them all the information in the world. I'm the type of person that I don't care. Like, I'll just tell you everything if you want me to, whatever. But if you want to have any other boundary with that too, saying I'm sick and that's all you're saying, then that's all you're saying. It's your business. That's fine. Also figuring out too, maybe your clients might be getting sick. I work with a lot of women with chronic illness. They tend to also get sick around winter a lot too. So keeping that in mind to make sure that I do have a rescheduling policy, but I can bend it if I need to, as long as nobody is like, what's that word? Abusing it, then I will bend it. I have no problem with that. I'm not going to be super strict about it. So always making sure when you're planning, you're also reviewing your boundaries, either external or internal boundaries. Oh yes, the life wheel for the business. I love doing that. I think I started it like a year and a half ago. I'm like, why didn't I ever do this for my business? Do you have any questions about any systems you use? We can just open that as any systems, productivity, any type of Q&A if you'd like.
Christy, you'd mentioned Calendly, and I've just started experimenting with that platform. And one of the things that I find about it that I haven't figured a solution for yet is if I want to have different types of time blocks on different days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how to do whatever, afternoons on one day and mornings on the other, but how to have these different mixes. And I don't know, it may be because I don't have a premium enough subscription, but I'm just wondering if you're familiar with that.
Well, before I answer that, then do you pay at all, or are you on the free one?
I'm on the free one.
The free one still should let you do some of the scheduling things like that. It's going to be probably in the advanced tab somewhere over there.
Okay.
I think for the free one, you can only have one type of call though. So like all your calls have to be 30 minutes or all your calls have to be 60 minutes. Yeah, and that's one very, I would say con with the free version. It's great if like literally all your calls are 60 minutes. That's totally fine. Maybe your connection call and your coaching calls are all 60 minutes. Totally fine. So are you asking how to do it, or are you asking if you should?
Oh, I was more asking how to do it. Yeah.
I would check on the advanced tab and make sure that that's open. If not, then it's probably you need the paid tier. For Acuity and Calendly, for Acuity and Calendly, I always suggest the first paid tier. That is like the one that's going to give you your most helpful situation for a scheduler.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we can also end early. I know there's only a few of us.
And I don't know, Christy, if this is a question, it's kind of a little bit off topic, but you're talking about systems. When you're talking about like building programs, like, like what Gretchen does with Stairway to Six and the Roundtable, like what type of platforms do you recommend if, for a new coach that's looking to build a program?
So if you're looking for a course management software, Gretchen uses Thinkific. I tend to recommend Podia because it's, I believe, a little bit cheaper than Thinkific, but does what you would probably need. They also allow in Podia in the first tier now to sell coaching sessions, which I find interesting. I haven't used that feature on there. But that's where most of my courses lived until I moved into another program that I'm not going to suggest because it's very tech heavy. So I would go with either like Thinkific, Teachable, or Podia. Podia is my favorite.
In Podia, is that what you called it?
Podia. I'll type it in the chat too.
Okay.
You can even have a website on there and everything, which is really helpful. But it can host courses. You can have bundles. Actually, I set up something for a client 2 weeks ago where she has all of her courses and she wanted to sell a bundle for her VIP clients, the ones that sign up with her for the whole year. So we made a bundle, just selected all the courses. We didn't have to duplicate anything. And then we gave them access to the bundle. So then they had access to all of her offers.
Got it.
Yeah. And then as for like actual course development, there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. I like doing everything in Google Docs because I can always go back to see, like, if I wrote over one of my ideas or whatnot, you can always go back in your version history to see it. But like, I'll just reference Gretchen again because most people are watching this because of Gretchen. We do all of her course development in Google Docs, including layouts. So we'll do like the worksheets in Google Docs. We'll do, even though you guys will get PDFs, you don't see the Google Doc version of it. Anytime we have live collaboration, we'll do that in Google Docs as well and give the students access to it. The layouts that we have our teaching and talking notes is also on Google Docs. Everything's on there. Is there anything you need to eventually or now make a fillable PDF?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I actually have like some that I do through like I'll upload it to a PDF Escape that's a free
that
version.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, so then I make it, but then it's like I have to do it all the time if I need to make changes to the document.
Yeah, that's the only annoyance with that. I do now pay for Adobe because Adobe I can just edit it, but I wouldn't suggest that to everybody unless you're making changes like every other week. I wouldn't really suggest that because Adobe will just like lock you into a pricing for like ever. It's really annoying. But otherwise, like, yeah, we would make the worksheets in Docs, download as a PDF, upload it to PDF Escape, and then put it into the course platform.
Okay.
Yep. Well, it was nice seeing both of you. If either of you have any questions directly, you know where to find me. If you have anything directly, just shoot me an email. Anybody else watching this, you can find me at Good Things Indeed on Instagram. You feel free to ask me questions there. Or more importantly, in the Coaching for Coaches group, you can also tag me in there and I will make sure to have that information in the description of this video. But other than that, next, I think I mentioned in the middle somewhere in here, next month we're going to be, it's not going to be a first Wednesday, it's going to be a second Wednesday because the first Wednesday is near a holiday. And we're going to talk about creating your, kind of your team, your professional, like CEO board, and make sure you have like a really good team with you. And a last call for anybody who wants to join the roundtable. I believe we still have one spot, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have any questions about that, you can email Gretchen at coach@gretchenheido.com. Nice seeing both of you. I'll see you around.
Bye.
Bye.